Oh, Rudy Gay, come here. Oh, Rudy Gay. He says the 2013 Memphis Grizzlies would have beaten the Miami Heat. Am I right? You the turkey that got traded, and they sent your butt to El Salvador. You got traded to Toronto, precursor to Kawhi Leonard, but you were never Kawhi Leonard. You could score about what your 17, 18 points a game, but you weren't no factor. You did have 21 and a pretty good game in the first time you played Miami of the year, but they dealt your behind for a reason because they couldn't get to the next level. They became a defensive-minded team. I remember that Memphis Grizzlies team. Zebo, Zach Rudolph, who was tough as they come. Mark Gasol, Paul Gasol's brother, who did end up winning the ring with Toronto years later against the Warriors. They had Tony Allen, who was a defensive specialist, but he couldn't score nothing, but he was strong on defense. Mike Conley, who you still remember, the lefty who still plays to this day, even though he's past his peak with Minnesota. But I remember him back then. Could shoot that thing, but they didn't score no points. If you watched any of my videos, one of the things that I did say about the Grizzlies was this. If you want to get yourself a renter score before that became fashionable, and I was talking about, I did a video about Glenn Rice and stuff. I was talking about that in the video, and I was talking about different guys that came along, and the guy, Carmelo Anthony, would have been your dude. Because Carmelo Anthony, to me, would have been the perfect fit for Memphis just to score and cherry pick. He didn't have to do nothing, just score buckets. Because that's what they needed. Had they had him, I think they got a chance to go to finals. They got swept by the Spurs that year, 4-0. So it's funny how you're saying, well, if it was with me. If they thought something of you for just scoring, they would have kept you behind. Because exactly when Zebo and Gasol were playing in the paint and what they had, that's what they needed. But you weren't the answer. I like it when generic middle row second tier turkeys popping off like somebody didn't remember how it was going down. Yeah, he had a long career and he could score. But we all know he was a broke Paul George. We know he was a broke cat of somebody that was better. He was never a front tier dude. But if he could score like Carmelo Anthony, they would have kept him. And they could have built around him probably because they did beat the Spurs 2011. But they were always that dude short of a cat that could just flat out score, and their team always succumbed to that, and that's one of the reasons why they never got to the next level. But Dwayne Wade said, I hope this is AI generated. He clapped on him hard, though. And I don't blame D Wade. Some turkey gonna come digging something out of the bushes. You come back 12 years ago. You come back all the way back and talking about, oh well, if I had a man, look, if you were that dude, they would have kept your behind on, but you weren't that dude. They weren't all defensive of what they had. They did get to the Western Conference Finals, but they weren't going to win nothing with you. You were not that dude. You were good, and you had moments. You weren't that dude. What they needed is like the same thing the Chicago Bulls needed. If a guy like Carmelo Anthony could have, like how you ever have like somebody who played quarterback for both teams and touch football or sound like, and they quarterback both teams. You could have had a Carmelo Anthony for the Bulls and the Grizzlies. You probably would have had somebody in the finals. Because I think Carmelo Anthony, for his cherry picking and the way he played, would have been perfect for teams that were defensive minded who just needed a guy who could score 20, 25 points to get buckets. Because that's what Melo ended up doing. He would have been a great fit. But not you, Rudy Gay. Not even close. But I love it when the turkeys come out the woodworks. I ain't heard from them. They've been on a milk carton for like 20 years. I ain't thought about this turkey since, what I want to say, Instagram started or something. Let's keep it 100. Snapchat. And back when people was playing Pokemon in the yards and they brought that back on. And here you come out the woodworks. I ain't thought about you in a grip. Please like, subscribe, work on thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for nothing shitter if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free, stay true. And don't let these jive turkeys talk crazy because they act like you don't remember. They think, well, if I had a been...